Anytime we do that, it's idolatry. But notice the warning. Buddy, this is the exclamation point that haunts Saul the rest of his life in verse 23. He said, but thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and he hath also rejected thee from being king. You're no longer king. Not only that, notice verse 28. He says it's going to be bad. And Samuel said unto him, the Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and hath given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou. People, that's when he got ugly. Because Saul had got to where Saul had lacked the power, the prestige of being king. So honestly, as any parent would do, he'd want to pass that on to his children. He'd want Jonathan to step up and be king. He'd want Jonathan to be sitting on the throne ruling Israel with all the benefits. People, think of the benefits in Israel if you're king. What's one of the main benefits in Israel if you were king? What's one of the main things about being king and a king's heir? No taxes, period. None. You don't pay a tax for nothing. In fact, most inns, when you walked into, or most at that time, we're thinking restaurants in our day and time, they don't want any money for it. It's the prestige of you being there. You get to go anywhere, do anything, and the charge is nil. All these benefits, an entourage everywhere you go, the best of the best, because you're putting the taxes on the people that's paying it. He wanted his children to have that. Saul said, they're never going to have it. I'm ripping it from you, and I'm sending it to an heir from another tribe. And buddy, that stuck into Saul. And that begins his torments. He loses his kingdom. Not only that, verse 23 in chapter 16, you see, and it came to pass when the evil spirit from Saul the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. That's the reason why Christians don't understand today. One thing that's condemning this generation to hell is right there. People don't have to come to church and get right anymore. We come to church and entertain them. You can't preach on hell and sin when the congregation is singing on heaven. Yep. That evil spirit, that convicting spirit of God upon a lost person. They come to church and everybody in the building singing about heaven, how wonderful it is, and they get caught up in all of that. And they get caught up in the chants and the swaying and the dancing and the beaving and the bobbing and everything else under the sun. And before you know it, they came in lost and walked out lost. Music is a dangerous thing. And most church services in America are built on music, not on preaching. Music is a very dangerous thing. If you don't believe me, notice how many times it mentions David played the harp to soothe Saul. Not only that, Saul's jealousy. You see what led up to this point. Now the jealousy starts. And I'm going to tell you the biggest reason why Saul was jealous of David was he knew the throne was taken from him and going to be given to somebody else. He knew that already. Samuel Lord told them that. We read that. For some 30 days, he heard Goliath come out and challenge the armies of Israel. And Saul, who used to be head and shoulders above every man, now found a man that's head and shoulders above him. A massive beast of a man. And what's happening? Saul is tucked away in his tent in fear. An evil spirit has come upon Saul. A spirit of jealousy towards David and a spirit of fear when Goliath is hollering at him. Come out here, let's put not the battles in array. Let's come out man to man, winner take all. And everybody in Israel cowered. You know why? Because they were looking at Saul to be the leader. A little shepherd boy came up there and said, I done heard that loudmouth over there long enough. I think to go up there and shut his mouth. And everybody tries to tell him he can't, and you know the rest of the story. He goes, and not only can he does. And the Philistines said, if you defeat us, we will bow before you. And buddy, they destroyed him, did they not? Why? And the Philistines ran. They didn't bow down and say, hey, you defeated our giant, we're going to surrender to you. Bunch of liars. They ran. They ran just as fast as they could, and Israel had to chase them. They come to town, and the celebration you see in chapter 18. And Saul understands who it is that God has picked. He didn't get this from Samuel. He got it because he's not dumb. Anybody tells you Saul's dumb, he ain't dumb. He's just spiritually not smart. Notice in verse number 8, in chapter 18, what more could he get but the kingdom? While when those people was saying he had slain his 10,000s, Saul already knew he had the hearts of the people. And if you have the hearts of the people, ask David what happened when Absalom had the hearts of the people. Even David himself was ran out of his own palace because Absalom had the hearts of the people. What you're seeing in America and all this chaos on the streets and this stupidity and out demonic activity. CNN made the statement this week that was nothing in the world but a mild protest in Portland. Fox News was blowing it out of proportion. It was a mild protest. And I bet the Niagara Falls is a babbling brook to them too. People, I'm just going to tell you something right now. If you turn to a channel where same-sex married couples are giving you your news, don't expect it to be truthful because they don't know the truth, because the Bible said they're of their father the devil, and he was what? A liar from the beginning. Well, preacher, there's some same-sex married couples and conservatives. Yeah, and I turn them off just as fast. Preacher, you're just mean. You ought to see me on a bad day. I'm being nice now. I could really be nice. Because I'm not Trump. I don't have to worry about being elected. So I get to say what I want to. Well, preacher, they may get mad. They won't get mad at you anyway. You might as well do it good. You might as well do it good. People, what is going on? Jealousy, lying, envying, immaturity. Isn't that what we're seeing? Aren't these the very things that we're seeing? Aren't they acting just like Saul? Think about it. Saul's jealousy. Not only that, Saul's jealousy causes him want to commit murder. 3 times. Twice we see an action. Third time, he has them bring what they think is David to the bed to solve him to smite it. He said, I'll kill him right here on the throne. And guess what? Find out that there's an image in the bed. But notice twice he threw a javelin at him. People, let me tell you something. You shoot a spitball at somebody if you're playing with them. You shoot a rubber band at them if you're playing with them. You shoot them with a water gun if you're playing with them. If you're throwing a spear at them,